Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're taking a look at dog nutrition, all thanks to a great article from Alma's Pet Zone that one of you sent in. Looks like you're really dedicated to keeping your furry friend healthy, which is awesome. So we're going to break down all the need-to-know stuff from this article so you can feel totally confident about what you're feeding your pup. And to help us do that, we've got a pet nutrition expert joining us today.
Hi there. So glad to be here and to dive into this topic with you.
Perfect. Okay, so the article starts off by talking about balanced nutrition for dogs, and I got to admit, sometimes I struggle to get all those nutrients in my own diet, with the proteins and fats, carbs, all that.
Oh, tell me about it. It can definitely feel overwhelming at first, but really each of those nutrients plays a key role, like protein. That's super important for building strong muscles, right? So all that running and playing your dog loves, that needs protein.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then you've got fats, which are important for energy, and also that gorgeous shiny coat you can't help but pet.
Okay, yeah, so it's not just about filling their bowls, it's about making sure they're actually getting what they need to thrive. Now, the article also mentions that puppies need different food than adult dogs, which I guess makes sense, but what exactly is different about their nutritional needs?
Well, puppies are basically little growing machines, right?
Yeah,
They're developing so quickly, so their diet needs to be way higher in protein and calories than like an adult dog who's just maintaining their weight and activity level. Plus, we can't forget about small breeds. Their metabolism and energy needs can be totally different from larger breeds.
so many things to consider. Sounds like a quick chat with the vet is a good idea to make sure you're on the right track.
Oh, for sure. A vet can really help you create a feeding plan that's perfect for your dog's individual needs. Their breed, age, all that.
That makes sense. Okay, let's talk about the different types of dog food out there. The article breaks it down into kibble, wet food, and then raw diets. You see all kinds of diets in your practice, I'm sure. What are your thoughts on each?
Yeah, each one has its own pros and cons. Kibble, it's super convenient, and that crunching can be good for their teeth. But you got to watch out for those ingredients.
Right.
Some brands load up their kibble with fillers that don't really offer much nutrition.
Yeah, the article called out corn, soy, and wheat as common fillers. Honestly, it makes you think, if I wouldn't eat it, why would I feed it to my dog?
Exactly. It's all about quality ingredients. Look for those brands that are using real whole foods as their main ingredients.
Okay, so what about wet food? My friend's dog is super picky, and she swears by wet food.
Yeah, wet food can be great for those picky eaters.
Uh-huh.
It's usually more palatable, and that extra moisture can be good for dogs who maybe don't drink enough water. The downside is it's a bit pricier than kibble, and, once you open that can...
Got to use it quickly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So convenience versus palatability. Interesting. Now, raw food diets seem to be getting really popular lately. What's the deal with those?
Well, there are definitely people who believe that raw diets lead to, better digestion, a healthier coat, all of that.
Okay.
But it takes a lot of research and planning to do it right,
Yeah.
to make sure you're balancing the nutrients and minimizing any risk of bacteria. You really want to talk to your vet about it, see if it's a good fit for your dog and your lifestyle.
Yeah, it seems like there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to dog food.
You got it. The perfect food really depends on your dog, their specific needs, your lifestyle, and of course, what you can afford.
All right, so let's say we're in the pet food aisle, staring at a wall of bags and cans. How do we even begin to decipher these labels? They're so confusing.
Oh my gosh, I know. Dog food labels, they're like their own language sometimes, but don't worry, we'll crack the code together. So first things first, look for the phrase complete and balanced.
The article really emphasized that. What makes that phrase so important?
So that phrase, complete and balanced, it means that the food meets the nutritional guidelines set by the AAFCO. That's the Association of American Feed Control Officials.
Okay.
Basically, it's your assurance that the food's got all the essential nutrients your dog needs in the right amounts.
So like a seal of approval for a well-rounded diet.
Exactly.
Okay, so complete and balanced is a must.
Yeah.
What else should we look for?
So next up, you want to check out that ingredient list. And remember, it's always listed in descending order by weight. So those first few ingredients, that's the bulk of the food. Ideally, you want to see a named meat source listed first, like chicken, beef, or fish.
Okay.
And watch out for vague terms like meat byproducts.
The article mentioned meat byproducts specifically. Why should we be cautious about those?
Well, meat byproducts can include things like organ meats, bone meal, parts of the animal that might not be as nutritious or appealing as like whole muscle meat. You really want to know what you're feeding your dog.
Transparency is key.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so we've checked for complete and balanced, scrutinized the ingredient list.
Yeah.
What about that guaranteed analysis section?
Ah, yes. That section gives you a snapshot of like the percentages of protein, fat, fiber, and moisture in the food.
Right.
It's basically like the nutrition facts panel for your dog's food.
Gotcha. So we've covered the big three: complete and balanced, the ingredient list, and the guaranteed analysis. Now let's talk about those ingredient red flags the article mentioned: corn, soy, and wheat. What's the issue with those?
So those are common fillers that often show up in lower quality dog foods. They're not necessarily harmful in small amounts, but they don't really provide much in terms of nutrition.
So they're just taking up space that could be filled with more beneficial ingredients.
Right.
Makes sense. The article also mentioned artificial preservatives like BHA, BHT, and ethoxyquin. What's the deal with those?
So those are chemicals that get added to dog food to help it last longer on the shelf, but some studies have raised concerns about potential health risks, especially long term.
Are there safer alternatives to those artificial preservatives?
Definitely. You can look for brands that use natural preservatives, things like vitamin E, vitamin C, or even rosemary extract. They work just as well at preserving the food, but they're gentler on your dog's system.
Good to know. Okay, so we have a good handle on ingredients to look out for. What about food allergies? That seems to be something a lot of dog owners struggle with.
You know, food allergies are way more common than people think.
Really?
Yeah. Some of the most common culprits are beef, chicken, dairy, and eggs. So it's smart to keep an eye out for any signs of a reaction in your dog, like itchy skin, digestive issues, ear infections, or even, changes in their behavior.
Wow, I didn't realize those could all be signs of a food allergy. What should we do if we think our dog might have one?
Best thing to do is talk to your vet. They can help you pinpoint those specific allergens and might recommend an elimination diet.
Okay.
That's basically where you feed your dog a limited ingredient diet for a while to see if their symptoms clear up.
Like detective work, but for food.
Exactly. The article mentions some alternative protein sources like fish, lamb, duck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are often easier for dogs to digest, and it can be a nice change of pace for them, if they're tired of the same old chicken or beef.
Yeah, expand their culinary horizons a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've tackled types of dog food, label decoding, ingredient watch lists. What about homemade dog food? Is that something worth considering?
Homemade dog food can be a great way to go. You're giving your pup fresh, wholesome meals, and you have total control over what's in their food. But it takes some learning. You've really got to do your research to make sure you're creating a balanced diet, one that meets all their nutritional needs.
So it's not as easy as just, like, whipping up some scrambled eggs for my dog.
Not quite. Scrambled eggs can be a healthy treat now and then, but they don't contain everything your dog needs to thrive.
Okay.
But good news, the article has some simple, vet-approved recipes to get you started. Chicken and rice, beef and sweet potato, stuff like that.
They sound good to me.
Right. But even with those recipes, you gotta watch out for potential pitfalls.
Like what?
Well, some ingredients that are totally fine for us humans can be toxic to dogs, like onions and garlic. Always double check those recipes to make sure they're dog friendly.
Super important reminder. So whether we're switching to homemade, a new brand of kibble, or even just a different flavor, how do we make the transition to a new food safely?
The key is to go slowly. Sudden changes can really upset your dog's tummy. Start by mixing just a little bit of the new food in with their old food, then slowly increase the amount over a week or so.
Slow and steady wins the race. All right, we've covered so much ground already, but wait, there's more. What about supplements? Are those really necessary?
So supplements can be a great way to give your dog's diet an extra boost, but they're not a replacement for a good quality, balanced diet.
Like a little extra insurance.
Yeah, exactly. Some common supplements include things like omega fatty acids, for a healthy coat and skin, probiotics for gut health, and joint support supplements like glucosamine and chondroitin. Those are good for senior dogs or active breeds.
Wow, so many options. How do we know which ones are right for our dog?
Well, for that, your vet is your best resource. They can figure out your dog's individual needs, their lifestyle, health history, and recommend the best options.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got the food figured out. We've talked about supplements. What about feeding guidelines? How much food should we actually be giving our dogs?
Portion control is super important, both to maintain a healthy weight and to prevent overfeeding.
Right. The article mentioned that the right portion size depends on a few things.
It does. Age, breed, activity level, even their metabolism. A tiny Chihuahua is going to need way less than, say, an energetic Labrador Retriever.
That makes sense. Sometimes we just need those reminders, though, right?
For sure. And don't forget about setting a consistent feeding schedule. That helps regulate their digestion and prevents those "I'm starving" whines between meals.
Consistency is key. Well, this has been so insightful. I feel like I'm finally starting to crack the code of dog nutrition.
That's great to hear. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to your dog's diet.
Absolutely. We'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into dog nutrition. Don't go anywhere.
And we're back, ready to put on our detective hats. In this part of our deep dive, we're going to learn how to spot the signs that our dogs are actually thriving on their diet. Like, how can we tell if they're truly happy and healthy on the inside?
I love that. It's like we're playing detective, right? Looking for those clues. And one of the first places you can look is their coat.
Ah, yeah, the article mentioned that. What exactly should we be looking for?
A shiny, healthy coat, that's one of the best signs of good nutrition. It's like the dog version of glowing skin for us.
So if their fur is looking a little dull or flaky, that could be a sign that something's not quite right with their diet.
Exactly. It might mean they're missing some key nutrients like those omega fatty acids, which are important for, skin and coat health, among other things. Okay, shiny coat. Got it. What else should we pay attention to?
Weight management. Super important. Just like with us humans, maintaining a healthy weight is huge for preventing health problems down the road.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Carrying around extra weight really takes a toll on your energy. So how do we know if our dogs are at a healthy weight?
You should be able to feel their ribs pretty easily without having to press too hard. And if you look at them from above, you should see a little bit of a waistline behind their ribs.
So a nice tucked waist. That's what we're looking for. What if we notice our dog gaining or losing weight really quickly?
That's definitely a red flag. Time to check in with the vet. Could be an underlying health issue, or maybe their diet needs tweaking.
Okay, good to know. Now, the article also mentioned energy levels as an indicator of good nutrition.
Absolutely. If your dog seems constantly lethargic, like they just don't have their usual pep in their step, they might not be getting the nutrients they need to fuel their body.
I mean, think about how you feel when you skip a meal or two. Not great, right?
Right, exactly.
So we want them to be energetic and playful, but not necessarily like bouncing off the walls all the time, right?
Exactly. If they're super hyper all the time, that could actually be a sign of an unbalanced diet, especially if they're getting too much, like sugar or carbs. Think about how you feel after a sugar rush, not a sustainable kind of energy, right?
Oh, totally. Crash and burn. So it's about finding that balance. Not too sluggish, not too hyper, just that nice, playful energy. Now, even if our dogs are ticking all the boxes, like shiny coat, healthy weight, good energy, the article still emphasizes the importance of regular vet checkups. Why are those so important?
Because those regular vet visits are all about preventative care. Think of it like taking your car in for regular maintenance, right? It helps catch any potential problems early on and keeps everything running smoothly.
That's a great analogy. So even if we think our dogs are healthy, a checkup can give us peace of mind and help us stay ahead of any issues.
Exactly. Plus, your vet can give you personalized advice on nutrition, exercise, all that good stuff. They're like your partner in keeping your furry friend healthy and happy for years to come.
Okay, so we've learned how to decode those dog food labels, spot those red flag ingredients, and even recognize the signs of good nutrition. But what about specific dietary needs that some dogs have? The article touched on food sensitivities and allergies.
Yeah, that's super important. Just like us, dogs can have sensitivities or allergies to certain things in their food, and just like us, those can show up in different ways.
Right.
Some dogs might get an upset stomach, while others might have skin problems or ear infections.
So how do we figure out if our dog has a food sensitivity or allergy?
Well, the best way is to work with your vet. They can help you figure out the potential culprits, and they might recommend something called an elimination diet.
Okay.
It's basically a process of removing certain ingredients from their diet for a while to see if their symptoms get better.
It's like detective work, but for food.
Exactly. It might take a little time, but it's worth it to help your dog feel their best. Now, the article mentions some alternative protein sources that can be good for sensitive dogs, like fish, lamb, and duck.
Oh, okay.
Those are great options, often easier for dogs to digest, and it can be a fun way to mix things up for them, instead of the same old chicken or beef.
Expand those culinary horizons.
Exactly, and who knows, you might even discover their new favorite food in the process.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I'm actually starting to understand this whole dog nutrition thing.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing I wanted to touch on, feeding trials. The article mentioned them, but I don't really get what they are. Can you explain?
Sure, feeding trials are basically like scientific studies, but for pet food.
Okay.
They evaluate the safety and effectiveness of different foods. So they'll feed a specific food to a group of dogs for a period of time and closely monitor their health, their weight, how they're doing overall.
So like a clinical trial, but for dog food.
Exactly, and the results of those trials help figure out whether a food meets those AAFCO standards for complete and balanced nutrition.
That makes sense. So when we see that complete and balanced claim on the label, we can be pretty confident that it's actually backed by research.
Right, exactly. It's a good sign that you're getting a quality food.
Now, we've talked a lot about what to feed our dogs, but what about how we feed them? Are there any, best practices when it comes to mealtime routines?
Oh, absolutely. Having a consistent routine can be really helpful for your dog's digestion and their overall well-being. Try to feed them at the same times each day, and if you've got multiple dogs, feed them in separate areas, just to avoid any competition or for aggression.
That's a good tip. Mine can get a little competitive at mealtime.
Oh, it happens. And lastly, remember that mealtime should be a good experience for your dog.
Yeah.
Try to keep things calm and relaxed, avoid any distractions, and make sure they've always got fresh water.
This has been so informative. I feel like I've learned so much about keeping my furry friend happy and healthy.
Glad to hear it. And remember, knowledge is power when it comes to your dog's nutrition.
Totally. We'll be right back to wrap things up, so stay tuned. And we are back for the final part of our deep dive into dog nutrition. I feel like we've really covered it all today, from those tricky dog food labels to, how to tell if our pups are really thriving.
It's been a whirlwind tour of everything dog food, that's for sure. Kibble, wet food, raw diets. We hit it all.
We even talked about those feeding trials and how they help make sure our dogs are getting what they need.
And those great tips on making mealtime a happy experience for everyone.
So much good stuff. But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back to you, our listener. What's your biggest takeaway from all of this?
Yeah, what's that one thing that's really sticking with you? Maybe it's the importance of really checking those ingredient lists, or maybe you realize that even small changes to your dog's diet can have a big impact.
Or maybe it's given you a whole bunch of new questions about your own dog's needs, like how to figure out a feeding plan that's perfect for them.
Whatever it is, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge you need to make good choices for your dog.
Because at the end of the day, you're their advocate when it comes to their health.
And don't be afraid to talk to your vet. They're a great resource and can help you figure out anything you're not sure about.
We also want to hear from you. Keep the conversation going on social media. Share your thoughts, your questions, any aha moments you had. You can use the hashtag #DeepDiveDogFood.
We love hearing from you guys and creating this community of informed dog owners who really care about their pets.
A huge thank you to our pet nutrition expert for being here today and sharing your knowledge. This definitely wouldn't have been the same without you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I'm always happy to talk about all things dog nutrition and help people make the best choices for their furry friends.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. We'll be back soon with a brand new topic, so be sure to tune in. Until then, keep those tails wagging and those bowls full of healthy, delicious food.